guys, Chris here with Super Savvy Travelers. Hey, before I do anything, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. You need this information, and please forgive the lack of complete professional setup here because I got this information. We just arrived back in Tuscany yesterday, and oh my gosh, I have to get you this information. It's very, very important. It has to do with being a resident in Italy, which we've gone over ad nauseum, basically, but also being considered a tax resident in Italy. And understand what that means. If you are a tax resident in Italy, you are taxed on your global income. Any money you make in the United States, any money that you make anywhere, stocks and bonds, Social Security, all of that's going to be taxed. And if you're living here and retiring here, that's fine. What you want to avoid is double taxation, being taxed in the US and in Italy. And that could be a huge problem if you don't pay attention and you don't really do everything right. So we're looking at this in two ways. Number one, are you an actual resident of Italy and a tax resident and consider yourself retired here? That's fine. There's some very simple things that you need to do to prove residency and on an ongoing basis, because I will tell you, the last thing you want to do is get stuck in some kind of a tax issue or any kind of issue with the Italian government and deal with that kind of bureaucracy. It's an absolute legal nightmare. I can tell you that because I've seen people go through it. Avoid it with every fiber of your being, and I'm going to show you exactly how. Now, disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a tax consultant, I'm none of those things. I'm just somebody who's gone through it. Okay, let's just get that clear. I mean, I could have a whole video on all the things I'm not. I'm not any of those things. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about being a resident, agreeing that you're a tax resident, and how you can make sure that you can prove that. Because in Italy, I'm seeing that you should always be able to prove everything and anything, have your documentation ready, always a paper trail, everything. So the first things you want to do if you're considering yourself a resident, full-time, tax resident and everything else is register with the municipality. Now, of course, you're going to do your elective residence visa, your permesso di soggiorno, register with the municipality, make sure that your habitual abode and your center of vital interest are both in Italy, meaning your house where you live all year round or at least 184, 85 days a year is in Italy. Your, all of the stuff that center of vital interest has to do with your family, your banking, all of that stuff is in Italy. And make sure that you're present in Italy for longer than 183 days or 184 days in a leap year. Once you're considered a tax resident in Italy, you are subject to worldwide taxation on global income unless you qualify for a special tax rate such as the 7% tax rate, or there's a new high net worth individual tax rate, which is different. It's a capped tax rate for people making over 200 to 300,000 euros a year. That's a whole different thing. If you're a high net worth individual, definitely talk to your attorney and your tax advisor. We love Nick Metta at Studio Legale Metta because he is a PhD in Italian tax law and he understands American tax law and how those things work together. Very important. Now, failure to properly declare or comply or keep your paper trail can trigger audits, back taxes, penalties, and even loss of resident-related services like healthcare, and even loss of residency. So make sure you're keeping a record and that it's easy to put your hands on if you ever run into a situation like that. It can also affect the renewal of your permesso di soggiorno, access to the Italian health system, eligibility for tax incentives. There's impatriate worker relief, flat tax regime for new residents, blah, 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 blah. All of those things can be impacted. Okay, so that's for those of you who want to be here full-time and fully be, retired and tax residents of Italy. Now, for those who are residents of Italy and yet are not considering yourself tax residents of Italy, that may not be viable in 2026. And here's why. Italy has strengthened its tax residency in recent years and has become more noticeable and emphasized in 2026. They're taking a lot closer view of it. So none of these things, as far as I can see, have any law changes associated with them. It's just how do they go through data? How do they match data? What do they use AI for to find out discrepancies and possibly zero in and audit people who have these discrepancies? So let's look at that. Italy has strengthened the rules around its tax residency in recent years and has become more noticeable and emphasized in 2026 due to better enforcement digital cross-checking of data, and clear presumptions that can catch people off guard, especially those who have claimed Italian residency benefits like healthcare, local services, or certain tax regimes while spending significant time abroad or not fully committing or paying taxes. In any of these cases, here are some simple oversights that could trigger an audit or an immediate status revocation. Number one is not updating your address correctly. Wherever you live, make sure that's your stated address and then make sure that's updated in all of the official forms. Failing to maintain proof of presence. If you're here throughout the year and yet you don't use your heat for 6 months or air conditioning or lights, that might be an issue. Now, the associated agencies sometimes use data matching to check for inconsistencies. Utility bills, gas, water, internet, electricity in your name serve as strong evidence of a local presence or habitual abode. They cross-check these against travel records, bank transactions, social media hints, property records, or border data. So they can look at all of these things to find out if you're here more than 183 or 84 days a year, 184 in a leap year. Now, if bills show consistent usage at an Italian address, but you claim non-residency or vice versa, or if presence doesn't match your declared status, it can flag inconsistencies. And this is part of the move toward automated risk analysis and data sharing. So you are okay if you're a long-term properly documented resident who spends the majority of your time in Italy and handle the paperwork and official forms and addresses and everything correctly. You're going to be fine. You are at risk if you are a snowbird. Basically, you claimed residency and you're only here a few months out of the year. That could be a problem. Digital nomads, semi-retirees who maintain strong ties abroad while claiming Italian residency perks without meeting the thresholds. Those are the people who are at risk. Now, for high net worth individuals, there's an increase in the flat tax regime. Anybody who makes over 200 to 300K annually, which offers a predictable capped tax rate on foreign sources of income instead of Italy's normal progressive worldwide tax rate. So in short, if you're planning on being a resident for everything, taxes and everything else, register properly at the comune, keep consistent records of presence or absence, use utilities, leases, and bills as supporting and not contradictory evidence. Consult a bilingual tax lawyer or accountant familiar with the cross-border rules, especially if you have foreign income or are near the 183-day line. Very important. We love Nick Meta at Studio Legale Meta. Nick Meta is a PhD in Italian tax law. He knows both sides of the fence and can absolutely give you the best advice. We use them for everything. So I don't mean to alarm you on this Easter Sunday, but it's something you should know. Nothing's really changed legally. However, what has changed is AI has entered the picture and made checking and cross-checking very quick, very easy, and very efficient. So just be aware, make sure everything's legal, make sure you keep your paper trails and everything else, and you'll be fine. So there you go, guys. Happy Easter. I hope the weather's great where you are, and we'll see you soon.